Alrighty, I hope everyone had a great long weekend. I still get a day off during the week because I work on the weekends, so I get 3 days off. So I got a long weekend. But yeah, today I am joined no other than Andrew Harris, Grey Cup champion, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, Toronto Argonaut, BC Lion. And you're a busy guy, Andrew. You were just telling me before we went on air that you just moved in and getting ready for your next adventure in Regina there, being the running's back coach. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was doing some sales. I wanted to take a year off of football after football was done and just step away for a bit and I didn't really anticipate me getting back into football this quickly or at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was doing corporate sales, construction sales, something I've been kind of doing in the off seasons for the last 6, 7 years, even when I was
Right.
playing for the Bombers. And yeah, I just I wasn't really missing football at all until the playoffs started last year. And that's where I was like, oh man, I'm really, really getting the itch to get back into things.
Right.
And even before this, like, after my last season in 2023, Corey Mace had just signed with the Rough Riders and it offered me the running back position at that point. And like I said, I wanted to take some time off and then, go through the off or go through the season and I was talking to the Argos about an office position potentially and then he kind of, I was set to move back to Winnipeg. We have two young boys here and just not having the family support was tough. So we were moving back to Winnipeg regardless. And just a week after we kind of made that decision, he had reached out and said, "Hey, would you be on board with coming on this year?" So man, everything happens for a reason, and it's a really good opportunity for me. I'm really excited about, what we got going on over there. I never would have imagined or thought I'd be putting green on. I put that green sweater on for the first time, and I was like, "What the hell am I wearing right now?" It was a bit of a shock, but at the end of the day, it's football, right? Like,
Right.
the CFL is a very small league. Players, even my career, I played for three different teams. From a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint. It's very rare to stay in one organization for your full career, whether it be playing or coaching. So, even though it wasn't a place I anticipated going to, the opportunity that I have in front of me, being, coaching with guys that I played against, that I was on the same organization with either playing or coaching. Even having a guy like AJ Olette, who
Hmm.
I worked closely with for 2 years. And now kind of being his coach full head of steam instead of that player coach that I kind of was, my last 2 years with him. But yeah, I'm excited. Was just out there for 10 days, learning, understanding their playbook, doing some training camp install, getting some run thoughts, and the big premise is we got to beat Winnipeg. So I'm looking forward to coming after the Big Blue, and hopefully bringing some good thoughts and getting those running backs dialed in to be as productive and more so the run game to be as productive as possible. No matter who's in playing and making sure that we're most efficient and that we're able to be successful as possible.
Yeah, definitely, right? You guys, I mean, the Riders and Bombers play each other 5 times this year, so you got lots of practice too in the exhibition, and then we all know what the
Yeah.
season holds. So it's a bit of a unique schedule, absolutely. Do you kind of want to take us back to since I cater mostly to the Winnipeg market, you want to take us back maybe to that 2019 run, um, just how that kind of unfolded. You guys were off to that hot start at 7-2, and then the wheels were apparently coming off, but O'Shea and you guys held it together. So just kind of take us through that journey. I get chills as a fan sometimes thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was just, you nailed on the head. We came out guns blazing. We had Matt Nichols as our quarterback beginning of the season and we're doing well with the tools we had and then he gets nicked up a little bit and Strevler has to come in and instead of being the gadget guy that he was, he has to come in and be the full-time quarterback. And it's no knock on Strevler, but he just wasn't quite ready to be that drop back quarterback that Nichols was, or Caleres eventually was. But there was some bumps in the road there with having Strevler come in and we figured it out. Obviously a tough season for me. Had the mid-season suspension. One I tried to appeal and get, sorted out, but ultimately, that was a really tough season for me personally. From things off the field, and on the field, and was able to kind of get, my mindset back. And even when I did come back to being on the field, I was still a little bit off, and finally found a way to channel that negative energy, and negativity around me into a positive way, and ultimately exploded in the Grey Cup in 2019. So probably the most memorable season I'll ever be a part of it and can ever think of. And one, from just the adversity I'd faced off the field, but also two, just what we did as a team. I remember going into that Grey Cup game and everyone, I think Hamilton was 15-3 and they had won all the player awards, and they were extremely cocky, just around Grey Cup week all week, and how they're moving. And it was just everyone had counted us out. We were going to lose by 30 against that team, and we punched them in the mouth, and right off the bat, and we never really looked back. It was pretty memorable. It didn't seem to matter what we ran from a run game standpoint. We were piecing off, big chunks at a time. Obviously had a great game. Dembski had a massive game, some big throws by Caleres, and some big catches, and my guy Dembski, he made some outstanding plays as well too. So yeah, I mean, I still get chills just thinking about, that countdown. I think we're in victory formation, in the last 5 seconds of the game, and when the clock finally struck zero, just the elation of we did it. Very emotional, a lot of pride, being a Winnipegger, to be able to cap off that drought and win it. And fast forward through the celebrations, which might be a little blurry after the game, but getting into the, back home with the parade. The parade was outrageous. Everything we did that year was just unreal. So yeah, it was an exciting time. And also kind of kicking off a weird time too, because COVID was right around the corner, and there was probably a handful of guys that were like really, really ill that didn't even practice at all that week because they were quarantined. And this is before we even knew what quarantine was. We had 3 or 4 guys that were really deathly ill.
Oh, wow.
Not deathly ill, but
Right.
really sick that they
Yeah.
couldn't be on the team. Lo and behold, we didn't really know that was, COVID,
Right.
whether it was or not. But yeah, there was a lot of sickness going around at that time, and it kind of just kicked off this weird, moment in time for society and culture of, we can't be around each other, and then fast forward into the 2020 season when we ultimately didn't get to play. So it was a great time, in that moment, but it really was the start of, a rough year and a half for a lot of football people, and a lot of people in general, right? It was just it was tough to kind of bounce back from, and especially for the guys at the tail end of their career, when you lose a full season, not able to work out, not able to do things that you want to do anymore. That following season in 21 was really tough for the older guys, especially myself, to come back and leave off where you were, or step back in where you left off, so to speak. So, but yeah, it was a great 2019 season, and one I'll never forget.
Yeah, mo most definitely. And I talked to you on the phone last week and told you I was at the 2019 West Final there. And just, I remember you going on the field with the flag after and just kind of taking that all in. The ball hits the upright, and I'm like, okay, this is meant to be. Like, it's just kind of storybook. And when you guys won that Grey Cup, I mean, that was for the Steagles and the Robert Gordons and the Charles Roberts, who's one of your role models. You want to kind of expand on the Charles Roberts story? You met him somewhere in Winnipeg, didn't you?
Yeah, so Charles Roberts used to live really close to me when I was in high school. And he was a big brother mentor program with one of the players on our team. So he would come around practice a little bit, and And not to take a shot at Charles's nutrition, but I'd see him at McDonald's drive-through quite often in the mornings. Picking up whatever he was getting, heading to practice. But
Right.
he was one of those guys I'd see around quite a bit. Funny story. I actually saw him at the Palomino Club one night. And I probably was too young to be in there, but I saw him in there nonetheless. In high school. But I remember saying to him, just being a cocky little high school kid, and saying, "Hey man, I'm coming to take your job in a couple of years." And he just kind of looked at me and laughed and said, "Okay, man, we'll see you in a few years." So kind of a cool story just to be around him and say what I said, whether it was right or wrong. But fast forward to 2016, and I'm wearing the blue and gold, and ultimately, winning Grey Cups and doing the damage that I did. So pretty cool story, pretty cool memories, and again, just never been one to talk about manifestation or speaking things into existence, but it definitely there is something you said about it. Setting goals and
Yeah.
and looking at things in the future, and if you can dream it, you can see it, you can believe it, you can achieve it. And that's definitely something that held true here in this case for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back to that celebration with the 5 seconds, you and Dembski were embracing in that celebration, and I was balling on the couch. Nobody cared about that. But I mean, it's just like it's actually nuts. I mean, it was. I honestly, I call the Bomber victory in 2019 the greatest championship of our lifetime, and I don't think I'm using hyperbole because it just, even with Bob Irving, right? Like he had called the one in 1990, and 2021 was going to be his last year. He was able to call back-to-back Grey Cups minus the COVID. So 2021, that West Final, December 5th, you put that team on your back. My buddy Leighton goes, "We're going home if it ain't for Andrew." Like,
Yeah.
you remember you point like you said this is the game we're doing it, and ever since that playoff game, I've bought in turnovers. But that was insane. Do you want to talk about that game more?
Yeah, so I mean, as I kind of mentioned, 2020 was a COVID year, and then 21, I remember I came into the season. I actually got in a quad accident in the summer of 2020, and I tore my PCL and meniscus, and because of the time that we had off, I was kind of advised not to get surgery. So without having access to gyms and being able to train the right way. I kind of limped into the 21 season. So shortened season. I think we had a 14-game season. We started a bit later. We are going to go into, just like mid-December for the playoffs. But I start off the season missing the first 2 or 3 games, and then I get back on the field, and I'm starting to do the th same things I was doing in 19 and feeling good. And then boom, like 6 or 7 games in, I get hurt again. And I'm like, oh man, this is just a struggle. So I kind of fought my way through it, and still kind of battling some off-field stuff, and not just I was just not in the right headspace, and really kind of in a depressed state, to be honest with you, just because I just felt like every time I was getting ahead and kind of getting back to myself, something would just kind of bring me back down under a rug, and really kind of bury me in a state. So, I had a deadline to get back for that West final, and I just barely snuck in. And I remember just being a game time decision, or from what we put out there. I knew I was going to be playing, but I was able to play, and then we really came out pass happy. We had a lot of turnovers and interceptions, fumbles, and then it got to a point, I think, in the second half, and each game I always have a guy that I try to isolate, that I know once I break to the second level or first level, whatever it is, who's the weakest tackler on the field. And my guy that week was Ed Gainey. And every time I came through the line, I try to find 11. I knew that I could just run through his face over and over and over and over and over again. And I really just took that as a challenge for myself to find him, but also to him to make me tackle. He was a leader on their defense, and I knew if I could make him fold the tents, that their team would follow suit after. So a couple times it was freezing that game too, especially in the second half. It was cold first half, but once that sun went down and that wind picked up, it was crazy. I remember I'd always kind of crouch down in the huddle. I remember Zach calling the play, and I could see his knees shaking, and I could see his hands trembling, and he called the pass play, and I was like, you know what? No, 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 let's run. We're running a run play here. And he's like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then sure enough, we get 15 yards. Same thing again. We call another run play, and we just kept chewing it up, chewing it up, chewing it up. And it just set up an opportunity for us to, take control of the game. We had such a great old line that year. Our receivers were blocking like crazy, on the edges, and then I was doing my thing, and it was really allowed us to kind of take control of the clock, hold onto the football. And we still had some amazing catches along that, throughout that second half, and some great throws. But ultimately, our run game really got us back in control of that game, and ended up, sealing the deal and winning it for us.
Yeah, it was nuts there when Dembski finally had that run there at the end. Then that sealed it, and you're off to Hamilton to defend the title and ultimately win it, and to go back to back for the first time since I believe Montreal in '09 and 2010. So that was exciting as well. Um, what are some of your greatest accomplishments that you're most proud of, statistically wise?
Well, honestly, to be truthfully honest, just becoming a starter for me is
Hmm.
something that I'm really proud of. I mean, when I first came into the league, 08, 09, with the Lions. They tried to put me everywhere but running back. I was playing receiver. They had me at safety. They were moving me around like crazy. And then to become a starter, a household name, a guy that was an every down back, not just the guy who came in and was doing spot duty. That's something I'm definitely the most proud of because, back when I started, there wasn't really any Canadian running backs. There was an era where myself, Jerome Messam, Cornish, obviously, we kind of set this standard of like, yeah, Canadians can come play. And it really set the bar for, the Keenan LaFrance's, the Brady Olivieras, the Anthony Coombs, who he kind of, he was a back and playing slot back. And, again, awesome that these guys are Winnipeggers. We had a bit of a factory, running back factory that come out of this city. But yeah, I think I'm the most proud of that, just being a bit of a pioneer in a sense for a new generation of Canadian running backs. And then ultimately too, I think, being top five in rushing, passing Charles Roberts is definitely something I'm proud of. But the yards from scrimmage for me is probably the biggest one from a stats point. It's I've always prided myself, and maybe this is a testament to being moved around a little bit, but having the opportunity to be one of the top, one of the top receiving running backs, as well as one of the best rushers. Just kind of shows how well-rounded you are, and being more than just a running back who just runs between the tackles or outside or whatever it is, but being a pass catcher, is something I took a lot of pride in, and maybe playing a bit of a receiver my first few years, understanding the concepts behind me, knowing when to release, knowing how to run routes properly and take advantage of mismatches against linebackers, and you accumulate 14 years of doing that. And you're able to put up some good numbers. So, between just, yeah, like just starting and being a household name is something I'm proud of. But I think the yards from scrimmage is probably the big one for me.
Yeah, most definitely, right. And yeah, I get that with being a starter, right? And and if you can make yourself kind of the jack of all trades and not just run between the tackles, you become more of uh, you know uh,
Valuable.
more useful. You know what I'm saying? More useful on
Yeah,
the field and that
yeah.
sort of thing. So that's all good. Is there what was it like playing in front of Winnipeg, the Winnipeg crowd, IG Field, the music goes and all that? Did it ever get kind of quote unquote old or what was it, what were kind of those thoughts being in that tunnel as you came out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never one to really get too nervous or overly excited, but I remember coming out of the tunnel, for the first time in 2016 when I just signed, and I remember I had a GoPro with me just to kind of capture that moment, and it was kind of like almost like looked like a Blair Witch Project kind of video. It was all over the place, but I just wanted to be able to hear that noise, feel that energy. And I remember the first time I came out, I just had absolute chills down my spine. It was a lifelong dream to one come out of the tunnel being announced as, Andrew Harris, just your running back for, that's playing and just hearing the crowd, go crazy and ultimately knowing that, you're here and hopefully here for a while and you're gonna do some great things. And when I first came to the team, we were had a losing record. Bombers had a losing record and it was really like the bottom of the West. And I took that as a challenge to say, okay, like I'm gonna do some great things here and hopefully be a part of a great culture that's going to be successful and dominant for a long period of time. And although I haven't been on the team for 3 or 4 years, I think not just myself, but guys like Dressler, yeah, there's a handful of guys that we brought in, and like guys like Big Hill, Willie Dembski, we kind of built a culture that kind of stemmed from those earlier years when I got there that it still is what it is now. And you look around the league and everyone tries to model themselves to be what the Bombers are. Not so much, yeah, on the field, but it's the culture in the locker room. It's the way they carry themselves off the field. It's the way they're disciplined and how they do things. And definitely something I'm proud of to be a part of. And but yeah, I mean, never gets old hearing the crowd go crazy never gets old. Being on the other side of on offense and hearing how crazy the crowd gets on defense. And it's just something that Winnipeg should be very proud of. The fans are a big part of the success the team has, and even too, the Jets are the big dog in town. And when they're, you look at earlier this hockey season when they're going, whatever their record was, and they're barely getting people to show up to games, and it's minus 15 and people are selling out the crowd. That just shows how prideful people are for this team and excited for it. And but that stems from years and years of what we built from the past. So pretty cool. And the Winnipeg fans should salute themselves for that. And although I'm on the other side now, hopefully trying to turn that around with another club. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge and one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, so you do have plans maybe to be here for November 16th then? Is that what I'm hearing and guessing?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. I was kind of just kind of laughing. I was like, it'd be awesome to, and I mean, it's a far-fetched thing, but be to hopefully be in the Bomber locker room playing in the Grey Cup, and if Winnipeg maybe crossed over and they're in the East and playing the Bombers in the Grey Cup, which again that's probably not going to happen, but it'd be cool just to either way. I mean, no matter how you slice it, I'm excited just to be back into football, back into doing what I know know the best and know well. And they say it takes 10 years to become an expert in something, and there's without a doubt, I feel like I'm an expert in running backs and run game, and getting the best out of the guys around me. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity for sure.
Definitely, and Saskatchewan, they got great passion. I lived there for a bit, and I remember calling the post game show. So, and I still do, and that's never changed after 30 years. It's ride or die with that team. Is there a favorite Labor Day classic that kind of sticks out to you? Was it the 2016 win, or was it? Yeah, I guess that would have been. Yeah, with the Medlock field goal in 2016.
Probably in 21 actually, because I just got back off injury.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there might have been a brawl or something in the end zone. But again, just fired up. I remember someone hit Dembski, and he's like a little brother to me, and I just lost it. I might not even been a Labor Day Classic game, but I remember just
I think that
playing
was the
against
Banjo. I
Saskatchewan.
think that was the Banjo Bowl.
Banjo Boy, yeah, that was a Banjo Boy, yes, yes. But yeah, just so many great battles against them. And that Labor Day. Boundary Bowl time is always when the season starts to really, get more serious, and that's when everyone says the real season starts. But yeah, it's always been a battle against Saskatchewan. Playing there, playing here, and it's always exciting times, and I look forward to more of those opportunities and more of that excitement going forward.
Definitely. Are there any superstitions that you had as a player and now as a coach?
Um, yeah, I mean, for me, I always had um 4 or 5 pairs of cleats, the same ones every year, like for that season, right? So I have them numbered, and sometimes I'd put on the first pair that I wore the last game. If they didn't feel right, then I'd go to number two. If they didn't feel right, and I would literally not really walk around. I just put them on. So sometimes I'd try in 3 or 4 pairs of shoes before, okay, these are the ones, and then I'd go into like a rotation. So that's one of the things I used to do all the time. It was kind of weird. They're all the same cleats, but they always kind of feel different. Um, Maybe just how swollen my feet were that day or whatever it was, but whatever. I mean, that was one thing. Superstitions, more just like a routine more than anything. But if I had a chink in my routine, I definitely felt off, and it was more in my head than anything, right? But I'd like to get to the stadium nice and early, do a loose warm up, get in the pools, and then I'd have a nice like 20-minute nap where I would just, close my eyes, have 10 plays kind of written down. Or memorized in my head, and just visualize these plays in my mind, and I'd be able to kind of anticipate and see, the play before I could see the play unrolling before it would happen. And the amount of times that I'd get into a game, and it had a said play called in the game, and I'm like, oh shit, oh sorry,
All
oh
good.
crap, I called this in my play already, or in my head already, and now we're running it, and exactly how I envisioned in my head, 2 hours before the game, it would unfold on the field. Defense would move the same way. Everything would kind of happen exactly the same way, and it would be slow motion for me. And it would happen 1 or 2 times a game, and I'd have a massive play just off of that because I'd already kind of envisioned it, and it would be slowed down for me. And it was like stealing, honestly, because when it felt like I was playing against Adam players or something because I had already seen this play. I was still playing fast, but on my mind, everything was going slower because I'd already seen this before. So, kind of a cool little
Wow.
testament to visualization and seeing things before they happen. And now, trying to pass this down, to my guys and how to do this and visualize but again, that's from watching hours and hours of film, understanding, knowing the defense better than they know themselves, and really just trying to map out how to utilize, angles, the way guys play, understanding how the guys in front of you play, how they block, what happens if they, their step off, they fall, like, just a little small details that go into each and every run. And, there's 5 or 6 guys in front of you working for you, that all play into that as well. So pretty cool moment to be able to do that, see it, and, utilize, that opportunity to do something big.
That's crazy because Tom Brady was actually talking about Super Bowl 55. He goes, I knew the Chiefs better than they knew themselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I knew what Darius Ward was doing and all this. So, yeah, that's why I'm chuckling here a bit. So, yeah, you're not the only one. So that's
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, any mentors that have what? Of course, there's mentors in your life. So, what were the mentors and role models that have helped you in your life so far?
Um, I mean, I gotta go back to BC. Those are probably the most influential ones. Guys like J. Simon, obviously, most one of the best receivers in CFL history. Angus Reid, he was my center on the
Mhm.
back end of his career as well. He was a big mentor, and even guys like Buck Pierce. Remember Buck Pierce was in BC with me, and you know having these veteran guys who are prominent starters, all stars, you know, Grey Cup winners, them believing in me and saying, hey, like you have the tools, you have this, you have that, you need to work on this, or that, or your attitude needs to be this way if you want to be a starter for just little nuances of like what I can do to be better. I would definitely say those guys. for sure. Definitely a lot of coaches that I had that were, were great mentors. People off the field, obviously, high school coaches and people in that regard. But for me, the best mentors are the guys who are actually in the battle with you, on the field with you, and I would have to say that those guys earlier in my career were definitely the ones that were really inspiring to me because once I became a leader, once I became a guy who was a household name, then now I was the one that was kind of passing that information down and learning from myself more than anything, and obviously my coaches, but. Earlier in my career, I would definitely have to say, I would say G. Roy Simon and Angus Reid, and two guys even till this day, I have good relationships with and still talk to on a decent basis. And yeah, it's just great to have guys that had a big influence on you. And even too, when I first came in, I mean, these guys were massive superstars in my eyes, right? I looked up to them massively and wanted to be in their shoes. And then you find yourself sitting on a plane, taking off to go to whatever team and whatever province, sitting beside, a guy like Jure, or, talking about, oh man, I remember one of the things I hated early in my career was doing media. And I remember talking to Drew and I'm like, man, like how do you make it so look so easy? He's like, man, just have a conversation, just talk to him like you talk to me right now. But I couldn't do that. And I remember every time I did media and I was just super nervous and I was like, right, right, right. Yep. And I was just like, had all these like little buzzwords that I just kept filling in. Like, and I remember just looking back at that and just like, man, it sounds ridiculous. But yeah, so nervous to do that. And then again, you kind of get into, a routine and you get comfortable and now it's a breeze, so
Yeah.
it's cool.
Hey, I'm chuckling because that's how I felt when I first started this 4 years ago. I was nervous as all get out. I had Rod Peterson on. I was like, holy cow, I hope this works. No, I do Zoom, but I'm chuckling because when I heard you at the Fire and Ice Banquet in 2017-ish. Yeah, it was 2017. Like, you had that great conversation there with Michelle Sawatsky, and then after you guys won the Grey Cup. Sarah Levsky puts that mic right in your face, and you
Yeah,
just give her you had the blood on the lip.
yeah,
Again, tears or whatever, right? Like it's just, you know what? It's amazing how we can all grow.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And even in that moment too, probably not my best moment when I'm swearing on national television, but that's what makes things great, right? The raw emotion. And I think more people need to accept that. And I mean, I even look at the broadcasts and how things are these days. And you look at like TNT or the NBA, and Shaq and Barkley, how they just banter back and forth, and it's
Right,
raw, it's honest,
right. Yeah.
and I think that's what people want. They don't want the fluff, they don't want
No.
just what everyone wants to hear. So
Right.
when you can get that raw emotion come out and you can be 1000% yourself and authentic, and genuine, and that's what people want. And I think we got to do more of that as covering sports, having day-to-day conversations, Zoom podcasts, whatever it is, just trying to be 100% yourself, and in a certain realm for sure.
Right. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, I go back to like you were in that locker room when you got you got my back, and all
Yeah.
that. And then fast forward to this past year, they honored you at halftime, and you're talking in front of 30,000 people at halftime, and you replay that speech again. And it was like, as soon as you said that speech in 2019, I'm like, yeah, we're winning this thing.
Yeah.
Um, and just again, being that removed, but you're always going to be looked at in Winnipeg as the guy that ended the drought. You'll be part of that piece forever. Like Leo,
Yeah.
like your name will be on the Ring of Honor one day. I predict that it'll be in the next two. I told somebody that, but
Yeah.
I guess this will be public. So yes, I'm on record. And yeah, and then again,
Well, I don't know
yeah.
about that. If I keep taking Grey Cups away from Winnipeg, then I don't know if they're gonna put me up there.
Okay, so you open that. Okay, so I was in Regina in 2022 for the Grey Cup. Do you want
Yeah.
to talk? Do you want to talk about that Grey Cup? You being on the Argo side, I'm gonna maybe again. You had a job to do, so
Yeah.
you kind of want to explain that one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I never wanted to leave Winnipeg. I thought I was going to retire a Bomber, and this was, that was going to be it for me. But ultimately, I wanted to keep playing football, and I wanted to be compensated, a certain way to play football. And the reason why I left was, compensation wasn't what I was looking for. And there was a certain way of handling that process that I wasn't really didn't really appreciate. So you got to go where you're watered, right? And Toronto wanted to water my grass and have me. They wanted me. They wanted me there to be a leader. They wanted me to help change the culture. They understood that I wasn't the same player that I was even a year ago or 2 years ago, but still a big piece of what they wanted as far as culture and bringing a certain dynamic to that team. I remember getting ready for the Grey Cup, and it was freezing cold, in Saskatchewan for practices, and just kind of using even the same ideas and thought process of like, okay, like we got to just sacrifice the next 4 days for what's most important, and that's getting a ring. Um, it's not even about the money that we get. It's not about hanging out and having fun, enjoying the festivities. All that stuff's gonna come and go. The money we make is gonna come and go. But that ring you're gonna get is gonna be forever, right? Then your name on that trophy is gonna be forever. And understanding too, like Winnipeg is good, but they're not that good. They are beatable. They're not, they're not like this isn't a David versus Goliath, situation. Like this is an opportunity for us to, we can do this, and we just got to hit them in the mouth and keep swinging. And, we were able to do that. Obviously, there was a bunch of swings in that game, and that game honestly could have went either way. But I mean, I think the way that we responded, and even times, we had a couple penalties that were just bonehead penalties that put us in a situation where we could have lost that game. Or maybe we did make it more difficult for ourselves, but ultimately we were able to overcome and take down, the juggernaut of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And yeah, it was honestly bittersweet for me.
Hmm.
Obviously I wanted to win that game. But I also knew what was at stake for the Bombers, and what that meant to their legacy. And ultimately, too, we won. I was celebrating my team, but I literally remember going up to Dembski, Brady, like a handful of the staff, and just giving them a hug. And there's still lots of love and respect there. I had media that after the game and had to walk past the Bomber locker room, and again, I stopped and gave everyone a hug that I saw and just said, "Hey, like, love you guys, man. Like, that was unreal." And again, it's is I still have tons of respect and love for the club. And but I mean, I had a job to do. I was unfortunately on the other side. Fortunate for me, but unfortunate for the Bombers. But I mean, AJ played out of his mind. Chad Kelly had a game. Our defense was unreal. There was so much that went into that. But I look at the Argos from when I first got there in training camp to that final week of practice in the Grey Cup, and the team had grown so much, and we were as close as we could have been that season to having the right culture for what worked for us. And I want to say I had a big part in that, and as well as some other veterans that we had on that team. So that was the biggest challenge for me, is getting everyone on board with you know, having everyone work for each other and not just about their stat line, or, for their contract year, or, and that's hard to do, in professional sports. Ultimately, like, you win, you lose, you get paid, you know. And guys will, lose sight of like what the goal is, and playing for one another. So I think that team, we really bought into just playing for each other, and doing whatever we could, not for the name on our back, but the name, on the front, and ultimately for the ring that we'll, have forever.
Yeah, I like that with what you say with the buy-in, because yeah, as you say, that's a hard thing to do because there's an assumption by fans. Oh, yeah, well, it happens all the time, but I think that's easier said than done, obviously.
For sure. I mean, it's tough, and it takes a long time to build that culture. It takes a long time to establish that togetherness, that brotherhood, that selflessness. And that's ultimately what you strive for, right? Like, expectations are expected, and we need to have those expectations and that accountability to one another. And when a guy does, a selfish thing, and whether it be on the field, off the field, it just becomes a cancer that you have to kind of reel in, reel in, reel in. And if you don't, it can be cancerous. So, how that all unfolds, every day is gonna be different, every team is different, every situation is different, but it starts from one little instance to the next, the next, the next, and you have to kind of compound those selfishness to selflessness, and really have everyone bought into to the one. I always refer it to this movie Drumline. It's called One Band, One Sound. That mindset of like we're all together. We're all here. Every beat we make is to make one sound collectively going forward, right? So that thought process is, like you said, easier said than done. But if you want to win in anything, business, team, relationship, you have to be teammates, and you have to do it together, and you can't have cancerous selfish people swaying that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, as you say that, right, there are names that pop in my head. You go all the way back to the Falcon Super Bowl run with Eugene Robinson, and people can look that one up. But it's just, yeah, you gotta, there's curfews. I'm here in Steinbach. We used to bill it for the Pistons. There's curfew. Everybody abides, and that's why the results, I think, speak for themselves here. So
Yeah,
there's been a winning culture here for years. And as you say, I believe the more we're talking here, and you've said it, that you played into the winning culture here in Winnipeg that resulted in two
yeah.
Grey Cups.
Shout out to Coach Dick.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, he's doing great
Most
stuff, man. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm actually surprised he's still here. I'd be naive to think he hasn't had other coaching opportunities come his way, but yeah, born and raised here, so it's
Yeah,
good.
love it.
Right on. Well, Andrew, this has been good. You said 45, so I think we're about 45 minutes. But hey, if you ever want to do this again, I'd love to have you on again. This has been
Sounds good, man.
awesome. I'll put it on
Right on.
YouTube after on my YouTube channel of Late Night with Smitty, and we can go from there. But all the best to you and your family. The move to Regina, and I know we're the same time zone now, but I always like getting that hour driving there.
Yeah, right on. All
Good
right, man.
deal.
Take care.
Yeah, you
Thanks
as
for
well,
having me.
Andrew. Yeah, no worries. Bye bye.
All right, bye.